This is the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game.
Rule number one is you have to believe in yourself. You're the only one who doesn't think you belong in this appointment. The prospect has already validated your existence by scheduling time with you. Get it through your head you belong here, go in there, crush it, and close the deal.
A place where sales professionals can come to learn from other sales professionals and thought leaders that have mastered their craft.
The difference between a good salesperson and a best-in-class salesperson is only 2 minutes. By spending an extra 2 minutes on what you might think is a mundane task in the sales game, you separate yourselves from the pack, you grow your book of business, you close more deals, and you retain your accounts.
As well as their peers who are still striving for perfection to achieve their why.
I have a wife and 4 kids. Failure is not an option.
Real sales professionals, real stories, real results.
It's no different than being a professional baseball player. You can't be a one-trick pony. You have to be a 5-tool player in order to succeed in this game.
This is the Power Producers Podcast, production redefined. Are you ready to feel the power?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game. We have got a cool piece of technology to talk about today. We have Mr. Tolga Tezel from Canopy Connect with us. Tolga, what's going on, brother?
I'm doing well. How are you, David?
I'm good.
Thanks for having me on.
We were absolutely our pleasure. We were just talking about it, and my new goal during the course of this podcast is to make Kyle touch his face with his hands.
Could you imagine
so they get stuck in his beard. He was just explaining that he picked up his Christmas tree.
I did, yeah, on my way back from my the normal routine of Chick-fil-A for lunch. Popped into Lowe's, snagged this part is awesome, 9-foot tree for my 8-foot ceilings. And
oh wow.
I did it on purpose though, man, because like last year we had this little tree, and I don't know if it was just because like our living room space is pretty big, and I got like a 7-footer. So, I mean, I knew it would fit, but it's just sitting there in the corner, and like, it just looks so puny. I'm like, dude, I'm getting a big ass tree this year. Whatever I can find, I'm going to snag that piece, throw it in the Palisade. So I did, and I got home, and this thing is like scraping the ceiling as I'm trying to get it in there, but it's actually going to be money. Because the top branch is all, I mean, it's bare anyhow. So I'm going to cut that bad boy off, and it'll be looking good. But yeah, my hands covered in sap.
I really hope you picked up like 15 surge protectors that you can plug into each other so that you have one master cord going into the outlet in your garage for your light show too.
Absolutely. I'm going to get the whole neighborhood to take a look as soon as it gets dark outside and just hold it over my head like Clark.
Yeah, you should.
It's going to be money.
You should. I imagine that it will be. Well, Tolga, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive into Canopy Connect. How did you get involved in InsurTech? Kind of what's your backstory?
Yeah, so backstory, I'm Canadian, was born and raised in Canada, went to University of Waterloo, and actually my first startup experience was at an InsurTech at Datalot. Some of your listeners might know. I was one of their first 2 interns, and that was my actual first experience in the insurance industry. But from there, I kind of went on to work at different startups. I was part of a really small tech startup in Boston. We were acquired by Dropbox in late 2013. So then I joined Dropbox and built some of their early collaboration infrastructure. And then from, after several years there, went on to join another startup called Nova Credit, which is actually doing something kind of similar to what I'm doing now, but in a different industry, in the credit industry. Yeah, so what we were doing was we were pulling in data that banks and other lenders weren't able to access about people, and through pulling in that data, we were actually able to demonstrate to those lenders that actually this person that you didn't have any idea how to underwrite them is actually creditworthy. And so these people were getting access to credit cards, getting to move into houses, mortgages that they otherwise would have been completely locked out of. And so, built something similar to this in the credit industry, and then realized that there was an opportunity to build something like this in the insurance industry just by talking with insurance agency owners myself. So it really kind of started with a few random conversations. I spoke with, a few independent agency owners. They're telling me that for them, the difficulty wasn't actually, especially if you're writing with a bunch of great carriers, a lot of time you can save people money, right? Or get them better coverage or both. But the challenge for them was really just getting the information from people so that they could show them that they can save them money or get them better coverage. And so, recognize that there was a gap there and that all the data that they needed to know about their prospect, that already exists online. And so recognizing that information gap is how this got started. Started building it from there. That's really where it started.
So here's a question for you. Have you looked at any other vertical markets outside of insurance at this point? Because I have two on the top of my head right now that I think, would be multi-million dollar ideas for you. I'll happily discuss them with you offline for an equity percentage share of what I'm obviously just kidding, but I'm interested in what else you've looked at because I've got a couple I think I can already see that technology applying to.
Yeah, it's actually the perfect time to start a company around open data because the regulatory environment is ripe for it. It all started with GDPR, but after GDPR, a bunch of countries, and you're actually seeing this today, even this year, handful of countries adopted regulation like that actually allows consumers to leverage their data that exists about them online that today is held in databases by huge companies. And so, it's a great time to build a company around unlocking that data based on a consumer consent driven model, which is what we've done. And that model applies to a lot of different industries. Actually, before starting this company, I was looking at mostly ideas in the fintech space. There's a lot that you can do with non-traditional credit data, payroll data. You're definitely seeing a bunch of companies starting up around those areas. But there's still quite a lot to do. It's really interesting. Even people's behavior around opening emails, like how responsive are you to emails? Are you leaving them read or unread? Those kinds of behaviors can actually correlate with your credit risk. So there's so much information out there that can be leveraged to give people access to things like the right credit cards or the right insurance or other types of products. And a lot of this is being driven by some of the new data that people are realizing they can actually use. Another example is Experian Boost, right? Experian just, kind of recently realized over the years that they can start pulling in your subscription. So you're paying for your phone plan for your internet. Those things are actually indicative of your credit worthiness too. So there's just a lot happening in that whole space. And there's, definitely seeing a fintech boom. And I think we're also starting to see the start of an insurtech boom around this kind of concept too.
I can tell you this, man, when I go out with channel partners, I have people in very specific segments of the economy that I like to work with. And one of them is payroll vendors, right? If you could figure out a way to get them the information, the payroll salespeople to get the information they need through consumer consent, my goodness, your business would blow up because that's one of the hardest things for them to do is be able to get
actually
that stuff.
Get the info. Yeah.
Yeah, because the problem is the same thing it is in the insurance industry, or maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but people don't want to ask for that information because they don't want to alert the person that they're getting ready to fire, right? So I would think that if you have that same ability to pull, the 941s or whatever else that the payroll company would need, include in a roster or whatever else, every single one of them should have the ability to do that. But that and even employee leasing inside the PEO business, I would think, you also have a lot of data that can be brought in that makes the sales process a lot easier. And I'm sure that, payroll companies would love to have that technology.
It's like you said, the hardest thing is for them to actually get the documents, chasing that. When I was in the PEO world, that was it. It was chasing down the docs, man. I was, following up with people for months and months trying to get, this piece or that piece.
Exactly. I don't want to say, I don't necessarily want to say that it's the number one thing that people run into from a sales objection standpoint, but certainly it's in the top 2 or 3. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to get you what you need. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Boom. Here's
really, dude, takes 5 minutes. I'll tell you where it's at.
Yeah. So talk a little bit, Tolga, about how you've solved that problem for the insurance industry.
Yeah. So, it started with the realization that the data that when you're talking with an insurance agency, let's say, and, you're trying to get a quote from them, the questions that they're asking you across different agencies that you're talking to, it's more or less the same things. They all need the same kind of information, right? If it's the auto, they're going to need to know the vehicle information, the drivers. They want to know like your past history with losses. And then if they want to do an apples to apples quote or just note like where you're at today versus what they can get you, they'll want to know your current coverages. Similar kind of thing for the home and any other lines that you have. And the realization was that this data already exists online. Your current carrier has this data about you. And but the fact of the matter is that although the carrier has that data about you, it's actually your data. And so what we've done in a nutshell, essentially the key to what we're doing is there's two things. One is that it's a consumer consent driven model. So when a prospect is going through Canopy Connect, we're collecting their consent for us to pull their data on their behalf directly from the carrier. And then what happens is that we authenticate them directly with their carrier in one step, and then we're able to pull their entire insurance profile directly from the carrier across all policy lines, including the deck pages, the policy information across every policy, vehicle information, driver information, home information, the claims history, all of that data directly from the carrier, from the source of truth, and get that over to you. And that's useful for things like, obviously talking with the insurance agency, but also even for things like just verifying that you have insurance, which is, a massive problem for even businesses outside of the insurance industry. There's a lot of different kinds of businesses that need to collect insurance information. And the way that, broadly speaking, they're doing that today is either through an online form, which will typically have less than 10% conversion, because people just don't want to fill out like a long form asking, where they're asked for their annual mileage, the VIN number, all the stuff that gets asked, or the same stuff is happening over phone calls and emails like you guys alluded to. And so each of those ways of collecting information perform really poorly. There's a lot of drop off in that funnel. You typically will get less data. You won't get the full picture, rather, and there'll be errors and omissions in that data. And none of that needs to happen because the source of truth is actually out there. And so what we've done is we've integrated with all the major carriers in the United States, and that allows us to pull that data automatically directly from them.
So that's what I was going to ask, like what that pulling looks like, because, in the industry, when you're just, let's say, trying to get some loss runs, like, that can end up being a drawn out process when it doesn't have to be. So,
Absolutely.
How are you able to, is it an immediate thing where you request that information, and because of the relationship you have, it comes like directly right to you? Like, what's that look like?
The way I envision it, I don't want to give away your secret sauce, but the way I understand the technology to work is you're able to use the username and login from the carrier to get from that insured to access the carrier website, and then just directly scrapes the data from inside their client profile.
Yeah, that's more or less accurate. So what we've done is, all of the carriers all have mobile apps, websites, places where people can get access to their information. But the trouble is that people, even once you're in there, people don't know where to get all the information that you need. And even if you actually know where to get all the information you need, it's a really tedious process to get you all of their deck page, especially if you're talking across multiple policy lines.
Well, listen, if you're talking to a lady that's griping because her homeowners went up $50 a year, the last thing she wants to do is spend an hour and a half looking for documents. And I mean, we get that. It's a different type of sales in the commercial end of our business, but we do have personal lines in Florida Risk. And I can understand how some of that can be a major issue.
Yeah.
One of the things I imagine that would get pushback, and I'm interested in hearing what because I'm sure you have best practices for how to use your product setup. What the people who are having the most success are doing. Advisor Evolved is who we use for our website here at Florida Risk. And I was in the Advisor Evolved group, and a question went back and forth between two people that happened to be using Canopy Connect. And I'm like, I'm going to be talking to old Tolga here in another couple of days. Let's see how this conversation goes. And basically what they were asking for was it was the workflow or the landing page that was set up to start people in the Canopy Connect process. I would perceive that it is probably something that you have to navigate carefully and correctly to get somebody to give you a username and password. And I think that so that being said, what I understood them to be doing was they'd have a lander set up that says to quickly and securely allow us to get the prior insurance information, blah, 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 blah. Click here, start. They go through, enter their information, click informed consent, and they're done, right?
Yep.
If I do that over the phone, no chance in the world. Hey, by the way, while you're here, I don't need you to give me anything other than your username and password to your current insurance. Nobody's going to give that to you. So
Right.
there's got to be some level of positioning to make it effective.
Yeah, and you wouldn't be using it that way. So the individual wouldn't be sharing their username and password with you. It's not shared with anybody. It goes directly to the carrier to authenticate them, and that's it. And so the way that it would work is that, you know, our customers, broadly speaking, typically use it two ways. Either they'll have a Canopy Connect button on their website, and they'll say something like, we're able to connect online directly with your carrier and get all the information we need. It takes less than 30 seconds. Click this link to begin. And then people will click that link. They'll submit the username and password with their carrier. Sometimes there'll be two-factor authentication. We handle all that kind of stuff. And then boom, we're able to pull the data and get that over to you across all policy lines. And so that's a very typical way that they'll use it. Another common way is you know, what you talked about over the phone. They would use it like that, except they wouldn't ask for the username and password. So when people are using it over the phone, they'll ask the client, right? You're already on the phone with them, so you'll typically ask them, well, what do you have today? And then the common answer to that is, well, I don't know what I have, but I think I'm with, you know, carrier X. And then your response would be, well, awesome. Click this. You click this link. It takes less than 30 seconds. I'll get everything I need. And then, you know, I'll get back to you with the quote. And they're done in less than 30 seconds, and they can go about their day. And then the next time you're chatting with them, you can say, I know what you're paying for your auto. I know what you're paying for your home and your umbrella and your life policy. Here's how we can get you from point A to point B. And at a minimum, even if you can't, like, it'll tell you all the information that you know to inform, you know, what you do with that. It might be the case that the person has everything perfectly buttoned up, in which case, you know, you can tell them that and not waste like further time, you know, trying to close a sale when there's nothing to offer there. But because you have that full picture, you know, typically there'll be something that you can do with that. You know, like maybe we can save you on the auto or the home or bundle to save, or maybe you have a coverage gap that we can address. And so having the full picture allows you to, you know, make the most of your interaction with that person, and just completely does away with all the questioning, like, you know, about the claims history and about the, you know, the vehicle information and the current coverages and everything, the deck pages and everything else that ends up being like each one of those things, each one of those inputs results in some amount of drop off. So to the extent that you can make your experience with your prospect just be the minimum amount of things they need to give you, that's going to perform much better at scale. And so that's what we see. So when customers adopt our platform, they start using Canopy Connect with their customers, their close ratio goes up. They spend a lot less time collecting information because they get everything that they need in that single click. And then the prospect's delighted because it was so easy for them to work with you. And you have all the information directly from the source. So you're able to, you know, talk with them based on knowing what's actually happening versus having to rely on them for bits and pieces of things.
Cool. Where'd the name come from?
Yeah, naming is hard. I spent a while actually trying to come up with a name for it. There are actually a fair amount of companies that have the word canopy in the title, but I kind of like the name Canopy because to me it reminded me of like me sitting under a tree. Like imagine you're on a hike somewhere and you're in the middle of like the Redwoods or something, and there's like these trees above you and there's sunlight peeking through. That's kind of like what I picture. Like that's like a nice, comfortable feeling for me. So I like the name Canopy. That kind of evoked that feeling for me. And it also kind of evokes like a feeling of like cover, you know, like you're covered. And so I thought that was kind of like fun as a name, and you know, made a little tree logo, and then kind of just took it from there.
I like to picture my hikes through the Florida Everglades alongside a massive skunk ape.
Yeah, you're going down there looking for the elusive Florida skunk ape is what you're doing.
The 13-foot alligator. I saw you guys had.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, there was a big
people
one.
Like, oh, this is fake. That's just Florida.
Yeah, go ahead and hit it.
That was a dinosaur for sure.
Yeah, go ahead and freaking hit your 9-iron wrong next to the water one time, and you'll see how fake those gators are.
Right.
Yeah, they get pretty big. That was a big one. There was one bigger than that was all over the news a couple years ago, last year maybe.
Just sauntering across the 14th.
Yeah. Well, it can saunter for as long as it wants because I'm not the one that's going to tell it to get out of the way.
Right.
So I'm interested. So when agents engage with you guys, it seems like it's a relative. I mean, based on what I saw, because I did like go through and click through different people's landing pages and stuff that they had as an example. It's really a slick and seamless process. How does that translate to mobile? Is it? I'm assuming as long as the person's website's mobilely responsive, then it's really irrelevant to your product. Is that an accurate statement?
I wouldn't say it's irrelevant. I mean, like anybody who's building a tech product today really has to, put mobile first. Honestly, it's actually like at this point, most of your traffic on an average website is going to be from somebody's phone. If you actually look at the stats, so you definitely can't go into that blind, and that's actually got to be a primary design consideration. So for us, mobile has been something that, it was immediately clear we needed to support that right out of the gate. So our product works great on mobile, and that's something that we've certainly optimized it for. Honestly, it works great on different form factors. So you can use it on your laptop, on your phone, anywhere that has internet. Really works on iPads and everything. But yeah, definitely, we built it to be really easy to use on mobile. So when Canopy Connect works on any device that has internet, actually. So and definitely. We all we're able to see the stats and stuff, and we regularly see like half or just over half of our traffic coming from mobile, and that's across that's pretty common though. Basically, any website will see that nowadays.
Mm-hmm. So here's a question for you: do you know the guys from Glovebox? Have you met Ryan, Sean, and Andy?
I know of those guys. Been obviously I think I listened to one of their podcast episodes a while ago. And yeah, so I think I spoke with one of them. I don't know the whole team though, but yeah,
you need to know those guys, man, because what I'm hearing is there's synergy between where we've talked with them about their product development going and what you're doing right now. Mm-hmm. So I will make that introduction for you when we get off. I'll reach out to them and say you guys should talk, and then I'll get out of the middle of it because I don't want to dumb the conversation down.
No, yeah, it'd be great to chat with them. I think they're another example of one of these interesting insurtech companies. I know they've been around for a little while too. So it's great to see fellow folks really trying to just make the experience better for everybody involved in insurance, because there's just the painful truth about it is that it's pretty hard to as an insured, but as well as anybody dealing selling insurance or just helping people advise around insurance. All of those activities are pretty difficult, and a lot of that difficulty just comes down to the information not being readily available where it's needed. So yeah, I'm definitely a fan of what they're doing too.
Yeah. So think about it this way, man. And I'm going to give somebody, this is seriously a multi-million-dollar idea right here. But I think so many times we look at apps like Glovebox or insurance agent apps been around forever. And those are post-sale products in a consumer's mind. What if we shifted the way that people think about the Glovebox app and made it a prospecting tool as much as it is, for your existing clients? And what I mean by that is these guys they were on our podcast. They've already talked about some of the things they're going to do. And one of the things that they're looking at doing down the road is allowing carriers that already have clients that are in their app to be able to cross-sell their products to your clients inside of the Glovebox interface, but yet you get revenue. Well, Why wouldn't it be awesome if the two of you could figure out how to mesh your technologies together, and I can go out and say, hey, look, we have this great app called Glovebox, and we use it for all of our prospects all the way up to them being clients. And we start the process here with you downloading the app and giving us your permission to get your current information brought in so that we can begin the quoting process for you. Boom, download the app, boom, create your account, give the informed consent, import all of your stuff into Glovebox, flag an alert for the people on the back end at the agency that are using the app that you have the ability to generate a new quote request. I mean, that thing could go crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's certainly a place where we could play a part, because we come really in handy right now. At the initial stages of prospecting, when you're trying to understand this person's profile, you don't know anything about them yet. You send them through Canopy Connect, and out pops the entire picture of that person. And so, that's pluggable into an app like Glovebox, or even into your own Rater or CRM or whatever systems you're using. So certainly those types of things we are places where we like to play. And yeah, I mean, we're actually we're going to be announcing our API being released quite soon, and so that's going to allow us to both integrate with arbitrary third parties as well as third parties to integrate with us. It's actually already up and running, but we haven't publicly announced it yet. So
well, you just did.
I guess yeah. Did. Yeah,
there you go.
There'll be a wider announcement in a couple of weeks, but yeah.
Well, this will air after you've officially publicly announced it. I mean, my mind's going a million different directions at this point, though, because if you have the ability to begin a prospect conversation with streamlining the process of them obtaining quotes and providing you with the information as an agent that you're necessary, I could also see having an algorithmic scoring system built up for the profile on these accounts as you port that information in, so that you can have standard, non-standard, premier, ultra, premier, whatever, so that if you have agencies that are only after a certain subset of business, boom, then they're going to go for that. But what if those agencies, dude, I can go all day on this now. Then what if those agencies, if they were, let's just say they only want high net worth individuals, but they've got a bunch of other stuff hitting it. What if they had the ability to sell those leads to another user of the same platform and monetize leads that they're never going to use to somebody who does non-standard and wants to have that? I mean, there's so much different stuff you can. I'll be on the team, man. Just let me know when you want me to show up for the first day.
Yeah, no, that's actually an interesting insight for sure. Yeah, I mean, we definitely like see, as teams use the product, and we'll have like people, share amongst their team members, to coordinate around like who's going to work with that prospect. So those things are certainly possible. And all of these things are possible when you're able to like pull this data, but also structure it. So with the structured data, you can do things like instant quoting and binding off of an apples to apples quote, or really any kind of like fully online experience starts to become possible. The problem is that with the way the status quo is today is that, people are fiddling around with emails, phone calls, literal pen and paper notes is really common, as you guys know. And so the data isn't being structured and processed instantly, because there's all these human touch points that have to, that rely on the data coming directly from the prospect. And so now that we're integrating directly with the carriers, we're structuring that data. It can be plugged directly into, systems that like your rater. So you can do instant quoting or, instant quoting and binding. And, because you have that full profile, you'll know there's this person, yesterday we had somebody come through with 13 policies. And so, certainly works really well for high net worth people, because how are you possibly just going to get 13 policies worth of data in 30 seconds, right? That just doesn't happen today, but it is possible with these fully integrated workflows. So that's certainly, something that we help a lot with, is just we get the full picture. And so rather than you just trying to get that one vehicle's worth of information so that you can close the auto, you just get the whole picture right up front. And so it works really great honestly, whether somebody has just one or two policies, but if somebody has 10 policies or more, it starts to become even more important that it's straightforward for them to work with you, because it's so painful for them otherwise to get all that information over.
Well, the other thing, too, is you got 10 policies or more. It could flag that you're a payment problem and the agency doesn't want you to be their client. Maybe they have 10 policies because they canceled for non-pay 3 weeks after they bind a policy every time, and you automatically kick it out. I mean, I'm as interested in what you're doing from a pre-qualification standpoint, so I'm not wasting time on the back end with my service people and my personal lines people, going after business that wouldn't score high enough for us. I mean, that's one of the things that we do inside of HubSpot, is we have the ability to do lead scoring. So when we're going after our commercial business, I can go to Kyle and say, don't talk to anybody whose lead score is less than 80. We know that if your lead score is 80 or higher, you're ready to go. Right. Well, if it's not, you're still kicking the tires. If there's some sort of a scoring system in place, maybe you can eliminate a lot of the inefficiencies that you have with people quoting business you were never going to get to begin with, because as soon as they came to your, your website or your app or whatever else, they're on to the next person, and whoever answers the phone the quickest and gets it back to them is going to be who gets the deal. So certainly you equip them with the ability to be that first person to respond. But, I could see, I'm all about the scoring, man, because it makes it to where your close ratios are higher, your retention is higher, and you're not screwing around wasting a bunch of man hours, or people hours, I should say. I need to be politically correct, whatever the new word is for it. But I mean, you're not wasting a bunch of payroll to screw around with this stuff.
Right.
So you might have said this earlier, and if you did, I apologize. But are you limited in terms of the carriers that you're able to pull stuff from?
We have to build these integrations, and so today we've built about 150 integrations. We're adding 3 or 4 more new ones this week, and we also have a policy that, when a customer requests a new carrier integration from us, we're able to add that in under 72 hours. So we regularly add new integrations for our customers. We already cover the vast majority of the personal lines across the entire country. But that's something that we're always going to be working on, because there are a lot of carriers, especially when you're looking at, regions like Florida and obviously every state has their own distribution of carriers. So we'll continue. We're going to be continuing adding integrations for a while, but we're already, covering the vast majority of the market.
I would say you are, if you've got 150 plus right now. I mean, how is the carrier community, and I don't want to put you on the spot by any stretch, but I'm just interested, man, because that had to have been an educational process to get carriers on board with this, to have that many. And listen, anytime new insurance technology comes out, the first thing that you hear from the people out there that are the tinfoil hat conspiracy theory people is, oh, you're in violation of your agreement with the carrier, or the client customer is in violation if they provide any kind of information, and you could get in trouble for doing that. It is very difficult for me to believe that we have those issues if you have 150 plus carriers on board. How did that educational process with them go?
Yeah, I mean, so first and foremost is that, like, this doesn't require a permission for us to integrate. The reason why we're able to do this is because of 2 things. One is that we're getting the consumer's consent, and it's their data. It's not like just because you happen to have a copy of my information, that doesn't make it your information. It's still my data, and the regulators are backing the consumer nowadays to with that position. The CFPB actually released guidance around these types of open data ecosystem because they want this to happen. They've recognized that it's pretty obvious this applies to any market. Greater information transparency results in greater market efficiency, and it results in the market in aggregate growing. And so that aligns itself with value for the consumer. And so the regulators want this to happen. And it's already happened in the banking industry. Healthcare is way ahead as well. And insurance has lagged behind. And so this model is already being used in many other industries today. So I'm sure a lot of your listeners use apps like Robinhood and Venmo and Mint and Personal Capital, or even link their bank account. If you're using your online bank account, you're probably linking that to other banks if you have another bank to send money back and forth. In each of those cases, you're linking your bank account, right? You're putting in the username and password for your bank account, and there's people understand that by doing by linking their accounts, they're getting value and convenience out of that. That's why I link my account, because I know that if I link my account to Robinhood, now I can move money into Robinhood and maybe invest in some stocks or something. And so this precedent has already been set in other industries. It's not really new. It's just that it hasn't happened in the insurance industry. And so that's why we've come in to solve this problem in the insurance industry. And so for us, what we're doing is we're automating an activity that an individual could do themselves manually. It's just that they're not doing it. So people can go and fetch their information, go collect all their documents. It is possible, right? It's happening already today. It's just that, like, most people aren't getting you all that information, and there's a lot of drop off. Most of the time you're just getting, bits and pieces, whatever you can, and then you're doing the best with what you have. And so, we've just automated this activity that somebody could do manually. It's just that they don't know how to do it today. They don't know where to get their deck pages or their claims history from. So we've just solved that problem through automation. And the consumer consent and the ability to authenticate them is all we need to be able to do that.
What's been the biggest challenge for you?
I think the biggest challenge has been building these integrations and making sure that they're working reliably. That's quite a challenge because we're not in control of these interfaces that we integrate with, and so it's been quite a journey building these out. At this point, now things are like, we've grown quite a lot. We have a lot of usage of it every day, and it's growing every single day. But it's taken us a while to build all of these integrations. Of course, like building each of these it's not a quick thing to do. And once you build it, you've got to make sure that it's still up and running and it's working correctly. And if something gets updated, you need to be able to respond quickly to that. And so the way that we've attacked that is by integrating with multiple sources to be able to pull the data. So we integrate with things like APIs and websites and mobile apps. And so we're able to extract data from documents, like structured data from PDF documents themselves. So with all of these sources, we're able to reliably get that data. And there's some other sort of secret sauce things that we've done to make them reliable, but I'll leave that as an exercise for the reader.
So what the people that are using your product the most effectively, what are they doing to set themselves up for success? I started to ask that question, and then I had a really good idea, and we ended up down a rabbit hole. But I'm interested in how they're setting themselves up to do that.
Yeah, there's two pretty common ways that they're doing it today. One is that they're putting the button on their website. So they'll have a button that says something like import my insurance, and then it pops open Canopy Connect. And so when people put this on their website, they're getting free leads essentially, because like some percentage of people that visit your website, if they see a button that says import my insurance, and it's saying like we connect directly with your carrier to get everything we need, it takes less than 30 seconds. Some people are going to click that because they know that typically getting their information over to you isn't something that takes 30 seconds. It's something that usually involves phone calls and emails and maybe contacting the agent. So by putting that button on your website, some people who visit your website will just click the button and you'll get their information without even having to have talked with them. And then when you're already speaking with them, you already know what they're paying and what their coverages are. So the conversation's way more smooth and you'll experience a higher close ratio with that. So that's a really common way that our customers use it. But of course, not everybody gets a lot of traffic from their website, right? A lot of agencies out there, the website is just there for show. So if somebody Googles your name, they have something to look at. So it seems somewhat legitimate. So in those cases, and even if they're putting on their website, obviously they'll still have agents who are at one point or another emailing or on the phone with the prospect. So in those cases, they'll just say, what do you currently have? And then the prospect will a lot of times say like, oh, I don't know what I have. I think I'm with, USAA, let's say. And then you'll say, okay, great. Well, click this link. We'll get everything we need. And then I'll get back to you with a quote. And a lot of people will click that link where they actually wouldn't have taken the time to go and dig the deck pages up or get the other information that you need. So we have a lot of people who are using it. It's really common for an agency to lead with one line of insurance, right? Like I'll lead with the home or I'll lead with the auto, and then I'll try to capture more of the household from there. But with our platform, you're getting the information across all policy lines. So you can, pick and choose, like how you want to pitch them. It can be either just the one policy or all of them. But yeah, so I guess backing up, pretty commonly people use it on their website, and if you're already talking with a prospect, you can just send them the link. And another common way is like, people do things like set it up on an iPad or something like that, just providing like a touch point where somebody can click import my insurance, submit with the carrier, and then they can go about their day. So yeah, those are some pretty common ways that they use it. It can go anywhere that a link can go. So people use it, with Facebook ads, they'll put it on their website. And yeah, but I would say the most common ways are embedding it on your website and just sending the link directly to a prospect over an email or a text message.
As you were saying that about people reading that and clicking the button, I thought about the single greatest garage sale ad that I'd ever seen in my life. And I was driving down the road one day, and there was a lady standing at the corner holding up a huge sign that said free sex. And then underneath it, it just said, "Just kidding, we're having a garage sale." And it had the address. Agents, if you put a button on your website that says "free sex," no, just kidding, import your information here, you're going to get a lot of attention on that.
Oh my God. I don't even know what to say about that.
It worked. I remember it, and it was at least 15 years ago. So I've always wanted to wait for the right time for me to use that in my own business, and I don't know that it's ever going to happen.
And here we are.
It is what it is. Well, listen, man, what do you see coming down the pipe? I don't want to keep you all afternoon. What do you see, as far as things for the future? We had talked a little bit about possibilities of moving into the commercial environment. Obviously, the big elephant in the room anytime you're working on a commercial account is loss runs, right?
Yep.
It's the number one. And I got to believe that pattern's the same, general principles as getting deck pages and everything else. And truthfully, deck pages matter too. If you can get whole copies of policies and everything else,
yeah,
that's a gold mine to a commercial agent, especially those of you that sell insurance and aren't problem solvers and haven't figured out you can get hired without actually placing policies and then you get paid, down the road. But from a traditional standpoint,
it's helpful to have that info regardless.
Yeah, no, I want it anyhow because it's going to help me frame my conversation on total cost of risk and everything else. So if I can get that and do so in a way that, again, it goes back to what I was saying before. Nobody wants to tell their agent they're going to fire them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right?
That's one of the, that's a huge one for sure.
And it's bigger in commercial because you're talking about, in our situation, the accounts we're writing are a couple $100,000 in premium. So you're not firing somebody and they're only losing $50 a year. You're probably going to get rid, they might not be able to send their kid to college their freshman year if you take that account. They love telling their clients that too, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
Little Johnny's going to college next year. I can't afford it if you move your account from me. Will you please just give me one more chance?
What a chump move that is, by the way.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, like as you guys know, it kind of it comes down to like who is able to provide the value that the customer needs, right? So
look, I want that customer to feel as if they came into my agency and when they did, they laid down on a psychiatrist's couch, but when they look up at the ceiling, it's this awesome canopy of redwoods in the sunlight staring through, giving that aura and peace of mind, even maybe with some yoga type music playing in the background. That's what I'm looking for.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the dream for sure. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question around what we have coming up soon. So for us, the biggest next milestone is starting to integrate directly with the raters through our API. And so, obviously, given that we work with all of these insurance agencies, they all have their own raters and CRMs and systems where they already have their client information. And so, with our API being released, we're actually just going to start building integrations ourselves into the raters, even though the API allows those integrations to be built by anybody. We know people want an Easy Links integration. They want, PL Rater and ITC and Turbo Rater and so on. And so that's one of our biggest next milestones is just integrating directly with the raters and systems that our customers are already using with our API. And then coming into next year, we're going to start to explore commercial lines more. We're going to start to do more document digitization and some other experimental things coming down the pipeline. We know that we can do this for commercial too. It actually, our product already works in some cases for commercial lines. It's just not something that we've focused on yet because in starting to solve this problem, the way we looked at it was that it made sense to start where the volume was the highest. And of course, there's a lot more volume on personal lines, but this exact same problem of information not being available also applies to commercial lines. And we know we can do it for commercial too. So we're going to be starting to explore that more coming into next year. And we know that's something that virtually all of our customers are interested in because most agencies do some mix of personal and commercial. You rarely have an agency that'll just do one only. So if you do personal lines, you probably already do commercial as well, and we can help you there as well.
Do you know the guys at Tarmica?
No, I don't. I haven't spoken with them yet.
You need to meet them too because they're going from the other angle that you're going through. So they actually started on the commercial side, and they're going to be pushing over to personal in the coming year, and you're going to be moving over towards commercial. I think you guys can learn some stuff from each other, but essentially they've got a commercial rater that's taken the industry by storm for all practical purposes. The people who love it absolutely love it. Their biggest issue right now, from what I can see, is just getting carrier integrations done and getting through that process. It's a whole different animal when you go to a carrier and say, hey, will you open up your API for me so that I have the ability to access everything and create bindable quotes in a matter of seconds for the people when they push this button? But I'm just thinking, man, if you have the ability to import that stuff in and integrate with the rater, and you can pre-populate Tarmica, I mean, look, I could take this thing from Canopy Connect to Tarmica to Better Agency or one of these CRMs right out of the box. I mean, have you talked to Nick and Preston at Better Agency at all?
I actually want to start talking with them soon. We're like really busy right now on I'm doing a bunch of hiring and also some product build. But yeah, I met Nick sometime last year, and I think they put out some pretty great content. I like they have some pretty great marketing content, which I've been seeing. So yeah, we're friends on Facebook. But yeah, we'll probably. I mean, I definitely would love to chat with their team at the right time. Because
wait till you see the thumbnail for his podcast episode that I did. It's fantastic.
Oh, you did that? Nice.
If I do say so myself. I mean, Nick's a good buddy of mine, so I talk with him all the time. I just think that I could see there's a lot going on, man. Yeah, if you guys, everybody has like a little piece, right? Everybody's got a little piece of technology that solves one thing, and that's great. But if you can figure out a way to work together, you're going to dominate the world.
Yeah, integrations are so key in this industry because like we're not gonna go and build a CRM, and like I think a company that focuses solely on a CRM is going to do better at doing a CRM than we would. And so for us, we're focused on the data layer, and I think like with a company like Better Agency, where you're managing your customer relationships, I think, and re-engaging them and handling renewals and all that kind of thing. I think in those types of flows, it absolutely makes sense to send out a Canopy Connect link so that your client can send you their current insurance information across all policy lines, and you have the full picture. So even if they're your customer already, let's say you have their home, but they might have their auto with somebody else. Well, you send out the Canopy Connect link, you'll get the auto policy information, and then you can work to win that business as well. So I think integrating with CRMs makes a lot of sense as well. I think the immediate next goal for us is like plugging into the raters, and I think the CRMs start to make sense next as well.
Yeah, and what's interesting is a lot of these people, I mean, again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. Better Agency's one of them because these guys were agents and they were figuring out the best way to solve agency problems, just like the people from Glovebox, right?
Right.
But, when you look at it from that perspective, they're going to have that Tarmica integration. It's there. It may already be there. I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, now you're integrating with both the rater and the CRM at the same time, and the ability to cross-sell and do all of the other things that you can do with that is phenomenal. I will tell you this, man, outside of loss runs and maybe deck pages and things from actual policies in the commercial world, if you can solve the problem of getting experience mods without people having to go in and hunt and peck or even pay the $6 to get them, because it's $6 to get a mod, $24 to get the mod worksheet. Mm-hmm. If you had a way to do that and you could dump that into a custom field inside of a CRM using your technology, that would be huge, man. That would be a massive game changer for any agency out there that leads with workers' comp in the commercial space.
Yeah, for sure. I think workers' comp would be one of the low-hanging fruits for us on the commercial side. Because those tend to be easier, like from a data perspective and to write. So yeah, definitely like, workers' comp, commercial auto is another.
The other thing with comp too, so that another reason why comp would be attractive is because there's so much information readily available from most states, right? So I'm not even going into user permission-based information at this point. I'm talking about you have a group of agencies that have your product as a value add or an upgrade for them. If you have the ability to just capture whatever data you can get from public domain and match it up to whatever's already in the system, that saves a ton of time, man. That's one of the biggest places where we, and I don't want to say waste time because it's how we get our business, but we invest a lot of time just doing that research. And the more we can create like a dashboard where you can just look at a screen and anything and everything, And, My Edge is one of those products that's attempting to do it. I've been extremely disappointed with the level of data that they have in there. I signed up for the product thinking it was going to be a game changer. And what I found out was I can't go to Starbucks, 2 times a week now because I have to pay my bill for that every month. It's not, there's no return on investment because they don't give me the information I need. It's one thing to have a product that has the capability of doing what people want it to do. It's a completely different thing to actually deliver that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so I would tell you, man, there's a lot as you're looking at places to get information and information necessary. There's a lot of that's just in public domain. Almost every single state has a workers' comp division website, and whether it be proof of coverage, some of them have claims information. They have carrier information. Some of them have the agency that represents the client currently and all of that. So that may be another place for you to take a peek as you're looking to go more down the commercial road.
Oh yeah, there's it's really, really interesting on the commercial front, because there's even, like, as you guys know, there's like state level ones. So it's like, if you could, in theory, I think, like, do something really, really interesting there if you just connect these public data sources along with the permission data. You can just get so much data marrying the public information with what you're able to get from a source like the carrier. We're actually already pulling some public data, like, obviously, like, you can get a lot of data from a VIN lookup, which, we're able to get the VIN from the carrier. So that allows us to enrich with more data from there. So there's a lot of actually really interesting things that you can do as well. Once because we're integrating with the carrier, we get like a lot of really valuable data, and then you can actually query off of that to produce even more from public sources. And so there's a lot that you can do there for sure. And even if you weren't doing that, just collating like the data that you can get from all these public sources, that alone, I think, is a pretty worthwhile problem, which I know there's some companies tackling that, but yeah, there's so much to do there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, listen, yeah, definitely worthy of some.
Well, your problem is you can't say a lot of stuff too, man. So every time I ask you a question, you have to run it through a filter about what you're allowed to talk about and what you're not, because you've got ideas, and I don't blame you for that. You don't need everybody and their brother hearing stuff that you're working on that, highly sensitive and top secret. I do know that based on this conversation, you're going to have people who want to reach out to you. And as we wrap up, I want you to tell them how they can find you best. And, people, talk to Tolga.
Yeah, thanks, David. Yeah, definitely check us out. Our website is usecanopy.com, usecanopy.com. If you can just like schedule time directly on my calendar to chat with me if you click the schedule demo button on that page, or you can just type me a message in the Facebook chat messenger that opens up there too. That goes directly to me. My email is tolga@usecanopy.com. So that's TOLGA@usecanopy.com. If you can't remember how to spell my name, just email hello@usecanopy.com. That'll also go directly to me. And yeah, I think those are probably the best ways to get in touch. Yeah.
Cool. Well, listen, man, we appreciate you taking some time out of your day. Love talking technology and ridiculous ideas to some, but it's crazy to see where the industry's going. And the one thing I'll tell you, man, is keep pushing ahead. We need change in this industry. We need disruption, and with guys like you figuring out ways to solve problems that have plagued us for years, it's only going to get better. So I thank you so much for your time, man. I wish you guys nothing but the best.
Appreciate it. Thanks, David. Thanks for having me on. See you,
All right,
David.
brother.
See you, Kyle.
See you.
You've been listening to the Power Producers Podcast. You can follow Killing Commercial Insurance on Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out our book, The Extra 2 Minutes, and our website, killingcommercial.com.